Focused on quality and convenience, there isn't much you won't find at Marie's Mini Mart. Home-style breads, sandwiches, plus a variety of artisan breads and delicious single-serve desserts available exclusively at our Frecker Drive location. Marie's Mini Mart, with 25 locations wherever you go, there we are.
Hello, I'm Karl Wells. My guest today has spent over 50 years working at the most iconic hotel in this province, the Hotel Newfoundland, or as it used to be called, the Newfoundland Hotel. Today it's the Sheraton Hotel Newfoundland. He's worked there for over 50 years and he's still working there, currently in the position of Food and Beverage Outlets Manager. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ken Richards to the program. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you again. Now, wow, look, you started in 1972 at the hotel at the age of 15.
Correct.
What was your first job there?
First position was part-time and was basically a busboy. So basically you were the gopher for the waiter. You basically lifted out these trays, lifted up the dirty dishes, cleaned the tables, right?
Yeah, and how many hours a week were you putting in?
Depending on the time of the year, I started off in the summertime, so business was good. So I'd be doing 3 splits a day, because you used to come in and cover off breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So I'd be doing maybe 8-10 hours a day, 5 days a week for sure.
So right. What was the restaurant in those days?
Restaurant in those days was called the Captain's Table.
Ah, yeah, right. I remember that, yeah.
Okay.
Was it just the one restaurant?
It was the one restaurant, yeah. Yep.
And of course, this was the original hotel.
Original Hotel Newfoundland, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the positions you've held at the hotel over the past 50-odd years?
The hotel and the new hotel, or just the hotel?
No, both.
Both?
Yeah.
Basically, as I just mentioned, we started off as a busboy. From a busboy, I went to room service waiter. Back then, it was considered a promotion. Today, they don't look at it those ways, or like that. And then I went as a waiter on the floor in the Captain's Table. So you had your own section and so on and so forth. And then from that, maybe a year or two later, I went as a captain waiter. So captain waiter was basically next to the maitre d' at that time, right?
Ah. So what's the difference between a maitre d' and a captain waiter?
Well, the captain waiter, basically maitre d' back then is what I am now, food and beverage manager.
Okay.
Pretty much, right? But the maitre d' back then, he taught you and taught you well, and to do different things and so on and so forth. He was a Hungarian guy, a real pusher, like, you know, you done it his way or you get the highway.
What was his name?
His name was Attila Rakosi. He was Hungarian. Okay. He was the first guy. And then Attila was leaving, and I was asked by our GM back at that time would I consider taking over the maitre d's position. And back then, I was hitting 19 years of age. 19.
Oh. Yeah.
So I accepted the position, and this was like late fall, I can remember that. And anyway, seeing it at the time, said, okay, that's great, we're glad to hear it, but we'd like you to go up training in Ottawa or Montreal, you have your pick. So I decided to go to Ottawa and worked at the Beaver Club in Ottawa for a couple of weeks straight. And I learned a few things that they had up there. You know, back home what we were taught here was almost equivalent to just as good. Only thing there, they had a dining room of 225 seats. They had an 8 to 10 piece orchestra every night. And you used to be putting out the courses in between the music and the dancing and so on and so forth. So I was just...
So was the Newfoundland Hotel a CN hotel?
It was.
Back in the day?
Yep.
And so the Beaver Club was in Ottawa.
Right.
And was that in a hotel?
That was in a hotel.
Which one?
Chateau Laurier.
The Chateau Laurier. Yeah, okay, Chateau Laurier. So you were at the creme de la creme of hotels there.
But in all honesty, even though it was the whole Hotel of Land, a lot smaller hotel, when you look at the marble and the floors and the decorations and the 20 or 30 foot ceilings,
yeah,
they were somewhat similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
A lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a couple of weeks, and then I came back as the maitre d', just back 5 days, and then I got married at age 19 years old. Right?
You're a busy fellow.
Still married today, 47 years later. Great marriage.
That's great.
So so that's different positions, and from time to time we start doing outside catering.
Now that's what I wanted to talk to you about, outside catering by Ken. So not all your work was done inside the hotel.
Correct.
You were also doing things outside the hotel. And a couple that many Newfoundlanders will know, Craig Dobbin and Elaine Dobbin,
Sure.
hired you several times to work at their the Dobbin Lodges in at Devil's Lake here on the island, but also at Adlatook in Labrador.
Yeah, yeah.
And on one of those trips, they were entertaining President George H.W. Bush.
Correct.
Bush 41.
Yep.
And you got to meet him and do catering for him, eh?
For sure.
What was it like meeting a former president of the United States?
Exciting, and then initially, just to back it up a bit, initially I had a chef lined up to be chef there, and myself just to oversee the service and serve the food and so on and so forth. And unfortunately he couldn't go because he ended up getting chicken pox. So then the chairman, as they used to call him, Mr. Dobbin, was really concerned. And he said, Ken, can you get another cook or chef to go with you? I said, Mr. Dobbin, don't worry about it. I look after the cooking.
You look at it. So
yeah. So I ended up going down doing the cooking and so on and so forth. And that one first particular trip, I basically had a list out, breakfast, lunch and dinners, based on the amount of people that was told me that was going to be there for breakfast, lunch and dinners. However, with Mr. Dobbin, you could always add on an extra 20 or 30 people because he was no difference down Beachy Cove doing functions. It was
You never know.
You never know. So you got to be ready for the unknown. So, so I went down, done that first gig down there. And, you know, it could start off at 5 o'clock in the morning, especially for the president. He would be up, going around. I would have to go up, make sure his coffee's made. And the CIA guys would be with him. First year or two with the CIA guys.
Secret Service.
Secret Service. It was a little bit rough to the degree of they were watching every move you made type thing. But fortunately enough, over the years, it used to be the same guys coming back and forth. So you pretty well go in the house anytime you want it, leave anytime you want it, as opposed to being watched and more or less x-rayed as you're going in through, if you got anything with you, you know, as far as firearms or what have you. So that's what took place there. So everything went off great. Could be breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then at the end of the evening, you could be making box lunches for the next morning, because it wasn't just one helicopter pad in Adlatook. There was times there could be 8 or 10 helicopters on the pad. So the night before, it'd be said to me, Ken, there's 10 going off for fish in the morning. So I'll have 10 box lunches. So like that morning, I would have started at maybe 5 a.m. This might have been 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, getting ready for box lunches. Then you get the next morning at 5 o'clock, you look out the window of the camp that we stayed at, the workers, and out of the 10 helicopters that was on a landing pad, there might have been 8 still there. So what was going to happen then? You're going to end up getting more for breakfast, and the box lunches will be hopefully used maybe the next day or whatever. For whatever reason, they decided to stay in bed. And so you do your breakfast and then your lunch.
So on one of these trips, there was an incident where the president fell through a hole in a bog or something, right?
Yes, you're correct.
And you were there.
That happened out. I wasn't there where you fell in the hole.
Okay.
But I was in Devil's Lake. So that particular morning, and
so that happened here on the island.
That was here on the island,
Yeah.
right? That particular morning, and being the president, it wasn't no such thing as a pilot. You had to have a co-pilot. So they used to put a second joystick, believe it or not, in the helicopter. And this particular morning, they were leaving to go to Gander River to go fishing for the day. So it was a couple of the CIA guys, and Mr. Dobbin, of course, himself, President Bush, and actually even President Bush, press secretary. She was aboard the chopper. And when they left Devil's Lake, you could hardly send a hand before you with regards to fog. It was really, really foggy. So from what I'm told, they basically started going towards Gander River, and the fog got that thick, the pilot decided to put her down.
Put her down.
And we'd wait for a little bit and see if it clears, right? Because it was due to be a nice day. And anyway, the president supposedly had to go to the boys' room. So, you know, you're on the side of the woods, there's nobody around, it's foggy, nobody could see you. So the guys, CIA guys, he stayed aboard the chopper. And the president went on his walk, and they were watching him walk, and they said,
All of a
boom,
sudden,
down
he disappeared.
down he goes, right? There he was, gone. So,
Whoa,
anyway. That
must
was
have
pretty
created
heavy.
a flurry of activity.
Because he used to wear these long waders. I don't know if you're a fisherman yourself.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So it was long rubbers basically right up your waist.
Yeah.
Right? And anyway, the CIA guys obviously they got out and panicked, ran, got sticks or whatever the case may be. But apparently he was up to his neck. And
Yeah.
he wasn't a short man. He was similar to myself, around 6'3", 6'4".
So he was down. He was well down.
Well down. Now, however, after the fact, even though I wasn't there, I would have said, which I did say after to the CIA guys, I would have undone the buttons of the rubbers and just haul them out.
Pulled him up out of it.
Obviously, he got long johns on inside of those and what have you, right? And it would have slipped right off.
They said, now
Forget
you
about the
tell
rubbers.
us.
Yeah, but I wasn't with it, or I would have said it.
Yeah.
Now, in the meantime, here I am back to the camp, because Mr. Dobbin that morning, or even the night before, he made strict instructions, Ken, I want to have a Newfoundland dinner, as far as a turkey, jigs dinner, peas pudding, salt meat, and the whole works, right, when we get back. So when all this transpired, it was like, are they getting back? Maybe they're not coming back, right? Because they were still stuck on the side of the highway. Anyway, they finally made it down the Gander River, and we finally got the phone call back to the lodge that yes, indeed, they will be coming in for the dinner. And the dinner did happen.
Wow.
But that was the story there.
So
right?
what did the president think of our Newfoundland, famous Newfoundland meal, Jig's dinner?
Couldn't believe it, right? Food that they never ever tasted before,
Yeah.
right? And peas pudding, even though, like I said, you're always ready for extra people, I'll give you an idea, and I'm sure you're familiar with peas pudding. You just got your small peas pudding bag. I actually used a half a pillowcase of peas.
Wow.
Not knowing who was coming, how many was coming, and I wasn't too worried what was left over, because the next day I made pea soup out of it,
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So it's well utilized.
Yeah. You're a brave man, Ken Richards, cooking for the President of the United States like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, where did you learn to cook? Because I had no idea you could cook. Well, cook at that level.
At the hotel so many years, you're watching chefs, you're watching some great chefs. And again, far as I mentioned, until Liver Cozy, I see him cooking so much, but that was more so tableside cooking as opposed to a gourmet cooking plate, right? And then even going to the new hotel, a gentleman that you might well know from Starboard Quarter days, I remember called it Starboard Quarter, was Liam Sneed.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Liam Sneed was a maitre d' at Starboard Quarter,
Yeah.
and he knew his stuff, whether it be the wine or whether it be cooking or flambe table cooking, right?
Yeah.
And I got a good bit of experience from him as well, right, at that
Yeah.
time.
You mentioned the tableside cookery. You know, the
Right.
Chateaubriand, the Caesar salad, the Cherry's Jubilee that you would prepare at the table. Do you still do that sort of thing?
Not as much. At the same token, those particular items you mentioned was from the old captain's table of the old Hotel Newfoundland.
Right, yeah.
Then when we moved to the new hotel, on top of those items you just mentioned, we would make Sauvignon, we would make crepe Suzettes, right? Cherry's Jubilee, I mentioned, we would make 4 or 5 different flambe coffees. Pepper steak Metricaine was named after me. Steak d'Ain. There was nothing we wouldn't do.
And all of this
tableside.
was finished off at the table, right?
All this was finished from the table from scratch.
Wow.
Started from scratch and done everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course over the years you picked up a technique. So
Yeah.
long as you knew how to cook, you know, and boil water,
That's right.
you could do it.
Yeah,
If you're ahead of yourself.
Yeah, you're quite right. I
Because
mean,
you got to turn around and you got to
you
think.
know the basic techniques.
That's right. And you got to
Yeah,
think
you
what
build
they
on it.
want or assume what they want, but always make sure you got extra done. Because
Yeah.
you never know the unknown, right?
Yeah. So let's go back and talk about the original hotel. What was it like working there? Because back in the day, it really was the place to go if you were interested in upscale food and upscale accommodation. There weren't that many hotels.
No, very few.
Not like today.
No.
It was the place, wasn't it? I mean,
Most
anybody
definitely.
coming into town, a celebrity, a high-powered, corporate person, a politician, whatever, everybody went to the hotel. What was it like being in the midst of all that as a young guy?
As a young guy, whether it's 15 or, like I said, up to age 19, becoming the maitre d' there, it was a great experience. You're meeting every different walks of life type thing. The difference of now compared to then, back years ago, people who visit from the mainland especially or whatever, they wanted to try the Newfoundland foods, right? And they want to try different buffets that we used to have at the old hotel, Newfoundland. And we done buffets all the time. Greenpeace wouldn't like it. We used to have the seal flippers on all the time on the buffet type thing, right? But it was good experience. Like where today, it's so much different. There's more of a demand. Yes, Newfoundland foods are still looked for, but not to the degree that it used to be. And you got to keep up with the other hotels and restaurants around the city. There's always a different theme and different ways of doing things. So you always got to be ready to learn something different, even though it's after 50 years and you're still doing it,
Yeah. Now, back when you started, there may not have been any, but there may have been a few that used to have permanent residents in the old hotel, people who actually lived there
Right.
year-round. What kind of an arrangement did they have with the hotel, those people who lived there year-round?
That was the case. Now, again, my memory served me correctly. When I started there was only 2 residents that stayed permanently in the hotel. More so in the winter months, scatter year, they may stay full year round. And there was a lady, I don't mind mentioning her name, she is deceased now, Mrs. Worsley.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, up in Topsail, there's a park up there called the Worsley's Park.
Yes.
That's named after her. And then there was a gentleman, his name was Aaron Bailey. He was part of, before Newfoundland Light and Power got that name, he was part of the old power company years ago, originally from Bonavista, right? As a matter of fact, when the new hotel was torn down, they donated a couple of doors to his room to the museum out in Bonavista, right? Mm-hmm. And he used to always stay in room 100, 101, 102. That was your suite, right? Mm. But so that is the case. But now prior to me starting, there used to be quite a few people that used to stay at the hotel.
Now, did the hotel, I suppose it's still the case today, I mean, hotels, things go on in hotel rooms. I mean, there's burglaries and things that happen, shady things. And a lot of hotels have what they call hotel detectives, or at the very least some kind of security in the hotel.
Right.
Did the Newfoundland Hotel have...
They weren't called detectives, but at the same time they were securities, right? Mm-hmm. And they were basically 24/7.
Right.
Right. They had their own shifts. Believe it or not, some of them, actually the majority of them, were maybe retired RNC or RCMP officers.
That makes sense.
Which were perfect. They knew everything and watched everything, right?
Yeah.
And then after a period of time, you know who's shady, who's coming in the hotel and whatever, and they'd be watching out for them. But yeah, we had security at the hotel for sure. Yeah.
What is, they used to have great uniforms back in the day. What are some of the fanciest uniforms that you would have seen
Karl,
staff wearing?
I had to say that staff in the whole hotel, whether it's the front door coming in, whether it was the porter or the head porter, they had basically a wine or a dark red uniform, and around the sleeves it was embroidered with gold.
Right.
And the head porter, he used to wear a hat, right, all the time, right? Really dignified. Actually, his name was Danny Duggan. His name was. He was originally born, well, not born in the city, but raised up on or married on York Street, right, really close to the hotel. And as a matter of fact, he even married our switchboard operator, Helen, her name was, right? And in the evenings, I recall, up on the mezzanine floor, which you're familiar with, we used to have a change room up there. So in the evenings, I used to have to change my tuxedo, and at that time, he'd be getting ready to go home for the evening. And it stays in my head for so many years, obviously 53 years now, that he used to say to me, Ken, I got a feeling you're going to be with this hotel a long time. And here I am, still at it.
Still at it, yeah.
And in the dining room, similar type of uniforms. The busboys wore white with the red lapels. The buttons wouldn't be sewn on. You used to have to use a clip with brass buttons.
Yeah.
And your brass buttons had to be shiny, right, every day. If it wasn't, the maitre d', hey, go downstairs and change. You're not in a proper uniform. And that was in the dining room. Then your front desk had a different uniform altogether.
Now I can remember the day of elevator operators.
Okay.
Can you remember that?
Can't remember them, but I did hear tell of them.
Yeah.
Right? As a matter of fact, our porter, I mentioned, the head porter, Mr. Duggan, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He's assistant, more or less. His name was John Whalen.
Yeah.
And John actually just passed a few years ago. And John was at the hotel many, many years. And he actually married one of the operators that used to run the elevators up and down.
I have to ask you, there's been a lot of celebrities who've stayed at that hotel over the years. One of them was Tina Turner.
Tina Turner.
Did you meet Tina Turner?
No, I met her. But Tina was in the new hotel, Newfoundland.
Right.
Right, new hotel.
Yeah.
Elton John was in the new hotel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Harrison Ford was in the new hotel. Yeah. Going back to the old hotel, I don't recall too many that used to be there, to be honest with you.
What about, tell me about Princess Diana.
Princess Diana, she was a fantastic lady for sure. So anytime...
Was she as beautiful in person?
Even more beautiful, if there's any such thing.
Yeah.
Anytime any royalty be there, again, the position I held, it was my responsibility to look after royalty as well as serve the head table. And in June of '83, I do believe it was, when they were here, I looked after the head table, which was about 20 people. And actually the telegram actually took a picture of myself actually pouring wine to her.
Wow.
And she putting her hand up saying no more.
Wow.
Right? And my wife, believe it or not, worked at the telegram. And Steve Herder got the actual copy of the picture and gave to my wife to bring home to me, which I have hung on my wall.
Lovely, lovely.
But yeah, she was a beautiful, beautiful lady.
Oh,
right? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
So, the original hotel, I was so sad when it was torn down.
Like everybody.
It's, you know, I mean, it's only a building, right? But when that hotel was torn down, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Why did they tear it down?
Well, it broke your heart, good many more, and a good many employees as well. But they weighed out the pros and cons of how much it was going to cost to fix it. It needed a lot of repairs. I don't know if you were down there in the wintertime. In the wintertime, you go in the hotel and all you could hear was the radiators, cling, clang, bang, bang. You had your own little band in the lobby type thing. Yeah. Right? And then the roof was starting to act up. Yeah. And then on the, say, closest side to the harbour, facing west, right up over the Killick Lounge, where that area was still, they had architects in. And the architects were taking pictures and so on and so forth. And part of the front of the hotel on that particular side was starting to fall.
Oh.
Right? So if you see, and I'm sure you do, maybe you even have pictures of the old hotel home, you see two different color bricks. Mm-hmm. That was the reason behind it, because that had to be fixed.
I heard there was a problem with the bricks.
Yeah. And because there was even a point, CN even thought about, before building the hotel where it's to right now, of putting a hotel on top of Atlantic Place, which fell through and he decided not to do it.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it needed a lot of repairs.
So was there any staff party or celebration when the old hotel finally closed?
Not as such, Carl, because believe it or not, we had the old hotel operating and we had the new hotel operating.
At the same time?
Same time. Same weekend, we had two conventions in both hotels.
Wow.
We never had time to have any parties. I could assure you.
Oh, right? I had no idea.
And once the convention moved out of the old hotel, the locks were put on her and that was it. And there was no party afterwards. Lots of fond memories, lots of great memories. Right?
So what did you think of the new building?
The new building, of course, as the old was getting torn down, and well, prior to the old even getting torn down, because it took several years for the new one to be built, there wasn't a day that myself or I took my staff or other managers over to the new building you know, and just look at it and see how it's materializing and how it's going.
There's no comparison really between them because they were completely different style hotels, weren't they?
Well, the old hotel was built in 1926,
Yeah.
right, and all brick. This is all big, sleek concrete, that type of thing. Completely different, but we definitely needed a new hotel. There's no ands, ifs, and buts about it, right?
Yeah.
You know, between the roof being as it is and the brick, and then in the spring months when we had a lot of rain, you go out the lobby and you see maybe 15 or 20 5-gallon buckets, beef buckets, catching the water come down from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Right? You know.
Yeah. So, what are the biggest changes you've seen in the hotel business over the years?
In the industry itself?
Yeah, in the industry, but more particularly, I suppose, you know, with the Newfoundland hotel as it was and today, I mean, over 50 years, you've seen a lot of changes in the industry and in your own particular bailiwick.
You're still getting, not the same travelers, because obviously a good many of them would be deceased by now, but you're getting more people in with more demands, wanting to try something different, at the same token wanting to try something local, getting an awful lot of groups in, especially when you get your conventions with high numbers of allergies. That years ago in the old hotel, occasionally you may see somebody in, or you'd be told ahead of time, Mr. Such and such a room is allergy to this and allergy to that. But today, if we got a group of 200 for dinner, we might have 50 allergies. And then you got to remember who the allergies are for and so on and so forth and carry it through, right? So that's a task in itself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I would imagine it is. So we'll finish off with this question. I have a feeling I know the answer, but what keeps you doing it for 53 years?
The love of the business, the people who I work with, management that I work with. Some I haven't worked for 53 years, but some of my staff I have worked from anywhere from 25 to 42 years, and they're still with me today, right? I often say to them, when you retire, I'm going to retire. And it's just meeting people, different people every day. And there's not 2 days alike, Karl. There's always something new comes up, right?
Well, thank you for being on, my friend.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for the work you're doing and the work you've done, and I hope you continue for many more.
Please, God.
And maybe in 10 years you can come back and I'll interview you.
That'll be a pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? We'll hold you to that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's it for this edition of Karl Wells Point to Point. Thank you for watching, everybody. See you again next time.
If you want convenience, Marie's Mini Mart is here for you. A one-stop shop for a variety of products, home-style breads, sandwiches, plus check out our freshly baked artisan breads and single-serve desserts exclusively at our in-store bakery on Frecker Drive. With 25 locations, wherever you go, there we are.
We want to hear from you. Provide feedback on this show or find out how you can get involved. Call, email us, or scan the QR code to take our quick survey.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
We invite you to play What's My Line?
Welcome, Mrs. Baker. Those folks over there need to guess your extraordinary occupation.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you perform?
Yes.
Do you travel for work?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever wear a special type of costume?
Yes.
Is your job,